Hey guys, welcome to the stream for tonight, and tonight we are checking out information objects. Okay, and that seems to be actually working. Except for this, which doesn't seem to be working. Okay, we're going to add a breakpoint there. And we press H. And that is in our BP interactable item. We resume it. And now we are in our event more info. We step over. This seems to be okay. Right. Step over. And we should be adding it to the viewport. Now, I'm not 100% sure what this thing does. Okay. Okay. So, basically what we do is we go back to our info only. We don't set the text. What we do is show subtitles. Okay. We're going to drag this in here. No, I am not. I have a colleague who is doing the modeling and level designs. So, no, I'm not doing it alone. Now, the interesting thing here is, does this okay, whatever. So we do that, we resume, and there we go. Okay. So if we go back to here, and we look at this, we go to the designer, okay, and we give it 75 padding off the bottom. Okay. size X is that, size Y. So we say 844. 844. So we're going to go 844 in the meantime. Hey Phoenix Plays, how you doing? Thank you very much, Jao, by the way. The game looks good. That's not actually what I wanted. It's more like position Y is going to be minus 320, let's say. Well, all I can say is I hope you found them useful. Well, it sounds as if you didn't find them useful. Never mind. Okay. So our horizontal box, we're going to pull this down to, let's say, 1200. Right, and we're going to change this 0, and then we're going to align it to 0.5, and probably position Y. Let's go 300. We might actually go 250. Try that. We might create our own actual information box here. We don't use Unreal. Well, that's okay. Nothing wrong with using something else. What is it you use? Phoenix Plays, do you use Unity or Godot or something completely different, or do you not like to say, or whatever? So if we hit our new information button, right, and resume, yeah, that looks actually pretty decent, I would say. So I'm not 100% thrilled. Right, there's none of this text is going to be that big that it's going to make any difference, right? But what we need to do now is we need to actually start checking things are working properly. So with that in mind, are we going to be able to do this? Probably not. Okay, we'll carry on with what we're doing. So that's working. We're cool with that. Right. So we can delete that. Okay, now our next problem is quite simply going to be where are we? Yeah, we need to start working out the inventory again now that we already did it and we've screwed it up, right? So with that in mind, I'm going to my tool and we're going to create some stuff, right? So let's create a weapon, right? We're going with that, interactable, pivot place in the wrong place, but who cares? We'll go with that. And we can pick up, okay? So we're going to go through the code here and find out what is going on. Okay, so there is our halberd or axe or whatever it is. So we can pick up or more info. We don't want more info, we're going to pick it up. Now that is going to have, oh, it didn't cause an error, which I suppose is good. Okay, but what it didn't do was put it in our inventory, and I can prove that to you because our inventory is going to be empty, right? Which wasn't the case before I started this redesign. But anyway, so if I now press the inventory, you'll notice there's nothing in it, which is not a good sign. Okay, so with that in mind, we basically have to go to our pawn and find out what is going on or not. Yes, you can EM Bakey, but this is just a test level for me to test things out, right? So I basically don't want anything to be on the ground so I can't see it or stuff like that. I just want to be able to quickly basically quickly interact with things. Right, so we are picking up, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to add a breakpoint here so that we can see what's going on when we actually pick up. Now, I pretty much know already what's going on, right? And it's basically that our interactable does not have a data table number, right? So basically, we press it. As you can see, we pick up. We have an interactable item, right? As you can see there. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to do something for you guys because I keep forgetting. If I go to Window and I go to Developer Tools, go to Widget Reflector, and I change this to 1.3, then you guys should see that a bit better. Okay, so we're going to basically, this interactive item is all good, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to step into it, and we've got our interactable item, and then we check to see if you can pick it up, right? Which you can, right? So we're going to step over that, we're going to step over that, then we're going to pick up item. So we're going to step into this, and this takes us to the actual item, okay? And you will notice that we have no DT row number, which is what I told you, because I kind of wrote the system, so I know what I've screwed up, right, when starting to redesign the system. So our interactable item is going to have to become something else. Okay, our struct inventory item is going to have to become something else, And that something else, we are going to have to define it in our struct inventory item. It's not going to be a name anymore, right? But we'll just keep that variable for now, right? Just because we like doing that. And what we're going to say is it's actually the interactable item, and this is going to make life a bit crap for me, because this can be various different types of item. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is interactable. Actually, you know what? It's going to be a base interactable. Right, now this is going to make me have to do a bit of work on this, but hey ho, that's life really. So we're going to save that, right? Then we're going to go back to our pawn, right? And in our base in our BP interactable, we've got this pickup item. And this is in our, oh, it's in each one. It's in each one. Which makes sense the way I had it before, but it's going to be a pain in the neck. Well, it's actually not going to be a pain in the neck too much. But we'll do it with our weapon first, right? We've only got a certain number of item types, right? So since we're picking up a weapon, right? We're going to basically say self. And that's going to go in there. Okay. And our next thing that we're going to need to keep in mind is in our inventory, we're going to make this editor visible so we can actually see what items are in our inventory to make sure that we are actually picking it up. Okay, so we're going to press play. Right, and pick up. Right, and then we're going to step into. Actually, what we'll do is we'll disable that, then we shall step into it. We shall step over, step over, step into. We'll add our breakpoint here, because this is going to be the easier place to break and fix it. But if we now press resume, and we go to our pawn, Right, where's our default crap? So where's the default stuff? Come on. Right, it's not that. Where's default stuff? Are you going to make me type in inventory here? Ah, here it's. Right, so we've got our one thing. And that's not good. That's not a good thing. Okay, so that's not a good thing at all. So we're going to press play again. Right, and this self well, I'm hoping it's something. It should be something. Right, pick up. We need to step into this to find out what it is. So we're going to step over, right, and we've got our weapon. You can see it there. Interactable item. Okay, and we're going to step into this. And there's our item. And we are basically not setting it. And that is because that should be right. Interesting. I shouldn't have stopped that there. Oh, hang on. It is adding it because they're both row 0, right? But the thing is, if we add a unique to inventory, this question is this inventory the correct struct? Well, in theory it has to be. Okay. So this is actually now quite wrong and needs to be changed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a breakpoint in here. I completely changed this whole system. The whole inventory and everything was working. But I wanted to redesign it because basically everything was working off one master data table, and I wanted to split up the data table. Right, so what we want to see is probably this. Right, but this is going to have to be redesigned because this is not right. So it's actually, I don't think it's getting to here. Let's just take a look anyway. So it is getting to here. The item exists equals false. I don't know why. Because these should actually be the same, because they both should be nothing. Right? So we're stepping over and we're getting our inventory and it's nothing. Then we're getting our item. Yeah, it is a bit of a headache, and the more I've redesigned it, the more this inventory is going to be even more of a headache, to be honest. But hey ho, you just got to work your way through it, you know. So this is now a BP weapon. Right now, if it tries to do this, it did, which means that this well, it's not quite the same problem. It's basically the redesign of my object, every single type of object, and then basically get that redesigned to work in the inventory again, because it all worked off a fairly simple thing, which was basically a data table row number. Right, but the problem was that each of the different types of object had little variations to what they needed, and therefore the data table just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger in the number of variables it needed. Right, and for most of the items, none of the variables were ever used. Right, which was basically the problem. So our inventory now should look like that, which is correct. Right, that is actually correct. Resume that. Right, and if we select our guy again, and then we go to our inventory, why is this none? I don't understand why this is nothing. Anyway, it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't actually matter because our thing should just basically be a set of data. It shouldn't be an object, right? Because at the end of the day, you're getting rid of the object, right? When you pick it up, you get rid of it. So you can't really have a reference to the object itself. But at least I know what the object is. Okay, now if I know what the object is, then I can basically tell it everything it needs to know to be a certain object. Okay. And the first thing it needs to know is what object type it is. So, let's figure this one out, shall we? This is going to be a nightmare. Because what I think we can do here, right, if I go back to our struct inventory item, right, what I can do is I could add another variable, right? I'll work it out. Bakey, I shall work it out. It may take me a bit of time to work it out, but I'll work it out. Right? So we can say object data. Okay. And I think we can make this as a variant. Now, I don't know what a variant is, but we're soon going to find out. Ah, it's not a variant. It's not a variant. I'm talking rubbish. I think it's just an object. But it's not an object. Right? It's not an object. Okay? It's a set of data. Right, okay. It's a set of data. And that's fine. Okay? So our interactable item is going to be a struct. Okay, but it's going to have a shit ton of structs in it. But it's only ever going to use one set of data for that struct. Right? So it might have a food struct, a drink struct, a weapon struct, other struct, but it's only ever going to use one. And by doing that, we can tell by telling it what the item type is, where to look for the data. Okay, that's going to tell it where the data is and basically what data it uses. Okay, now it is a bit convoluted, but hey ho, shit happens. So the first thing it's going to have is it's going to have two things. Well, it's going to have basic data, and it's going to have I'll let you see, right, is the best way to say it. So it's going to have a new variable, it's going to have two, right, and it's going to be a reference to the mesh. It's going to be a reference to the image. Both of those are going to help us in our whatchamacallit, in our inventory when we're viewing stuff, right? So that is going to be static mesh, right? And then this is going to have texture 2D. Right, and our next most important thing is it's going to be item type, right? And that's going to be enum interactable type. Okay. And then basically we're just going to say weapon data. And I'm going to show you what these look like in a minute. And that's going to be struct weapon. Most of these are going to be empty. Right, now that we've got our way forward, we're going to bash on here. This is going to be good. It's going to work. And everything's going to be great. And that's going to be food data. Then we might not actually need these mesh and image, because these are, I believe, in these, right? So we're going to do drink data. And what else have we got? Some of these aren't going to be used, obviously, right? They're interactables, because some interactables you can't pick up. So everything that you can't pick up, like for example a door, you can pick up a drink, you can't pick up a fire, you can pick up food, you can pick up fuel, you can't pick up info only, and then you can pick up a weapon, right? You can't pick up a ladder, so that's okay. So all we've really got is weapon data, food data, drink data. I don't think I've made clothing data yet, or fuel data, which I'm going to need to do soon, because fuel you need to start a fire. Yes, the weapons have got a different blueprint, right? But they're all interactable, right? So a drink has the same interactable functions as a weapon. Okay, now you have to remember here, a weapon is different in this game. A weapon isn't really a weapon, it's more of a decoration thing. Okay, apart from the bow. Okay? You're not meant to use melee weapons in this game. Right? But anyway, that's just a little by the by. But we can set up our basic system here. Now, we're not going to need certain things here. Right? And this is going to be struct drink. Okay. Good start. Now, what I was saying was, if we look at food, not the blueprint, if we look at our item type, databases. No, we don't. Where did I put these? Right, they must be in here, which they are. So we've got item databases, right? So if we look at drink types, you can see it's got the image in the mesh, right? If we look at food types, we can see it's got the image and the mesh. If we look at weapon types, it's got the image and the mesh, but obviously this is different, right, from the food types, because the food types give a food value, which add to like the hunger, and the drink one has similar. It has a drink value which affects the other thing, your thirst, right? So that's how this is working. So basically what I can do, right, is, now we are very possibly going to have to put in here somewhere the item type, okay? But we'll worry about that in a second. So if we go back to here, we can remove this, we can remove that, we can remove that, and we can remove that. Now that's going to completely screw up everything, right? But don't worry about it. We've got it. We've got it. Don't worry. We've got it. So our next point is that in here we need the item type. Okay. So we're going to have to bite the bullet here. We're going to have to go to our item struct, and we'll only need to really do it for the things that are going into the inventory, okay? So we're going to have to add a variable type, right? And that is going to have to be we're going to have to add a bit of redundancy here, guys, sorry. In database terms, this is adding in some redundant data, but who cares? In this case, it's a small price to pay. Interactable, and it's going to be an enum. Okay, and this is going to be simple because we just actually set it to default, and this is struct weapon, so we leave it at weapon. Right, we go into food, we do the exact same thing. Right, we add a new variable, we say item type, interactable. So this is going to set it up for us because we just need to default it for food, right? And if we just do drink now, we can do the same thing and just default it to drink, right? And now when we pass this item into our inventory, we can sort them out by item type, okay? So, well, we could have pressed interactable, but right, there we go. And all we do here is basically default that. What? That's not the ring, that's interaction type. Interactable. Type. And we set this one to drink. We save that. Okie dokie. So that's all good. Right. And our next thing we do is I can't remember. So you can see these are both food, right? If we go to weapons, TT weapons, they're all weapons, right? Now, as I said, there's a bit of redundancy there, but I'm going to live with it. Right, I'm going to call it, hey Jess Police, how you doing? Hope you're having a nice Christmas and stuff. Right, so we need to go back to our inventory and start getting that sorted out. So we've cut this down now to quantity, item type, weapon data, food data, drink data. We're going to add 2 later, which is going to be probably, we're going to duplicate that and we're going to call it, something. Can't remember what. Oh, clothing. And there was one more which I can't remember what it was. Right, you can't pick up a bed. Clothing, food, fuel. Fuel was what it was. Right, so we're going to go back in here. We're going to duplicate that. We might need to change these, especially the fuel one, because the fuel one's going to have a value that's going to be passed to a fire. Yeah, mine's the same as usual, which is not doing very much, but that's just me. I'm old grumpy man, but you knew that. Right, so that's going to be clothing data. Right, and that's going to be clothing. Where's our struct clothing? There it is. Right, new variable, and we're going to have, what was the other one again? Oh, fuel data, and that's going to be struct fuel. Okie dokie. Now we're on a roll. So a bit of redundancy here, but every single item is only going to have data stuffed into one of these structures. The game's going good. I'm just redesigning some stuff that I designed earlier which was working. Right, but no, it's not waste data, it's just not used. Like, this will just be a set of empty variables. These will be empty variables, right? So it's not a waste of data, right? They're just empty. Yes, it's a survival game. So, don't worry, the wasting data thing is the reason I redesigned this whole thing. Because basically I had a data table for every single item, right? So if it was a food item, it would have all the data for a weapon item, right? Even though it was empty, right? Uh, well, in a survival game, you don't really make a lot of waste, really, when you think about it. Waste only really came about in the 20th century because people would just burn stuff, right? And since this is set in sort of Viking times, it's kind of the same thing. You would just burn it, burn stuff. So if you're and you didn't have plastic, so there wasn't when you think about it, there wouldn't have been an awful lot of waste in medieval times, right? The only people that would create a lot of waste or any waste would be the rich, right? Because food wouldn't have been packaged, you would eat it all, or you would burn it, or you'd put it in a compost heap, or whatever, you know? You would feed it to your animals, blah blah blah. So there wouldn't have been an awful lot of waste. Anyway, what, did you finish your other game, Jess? Can you send us a link on Steam to your other game? Anyway, that was just a bit of leg pulling there. I'm going to go and grab a cigarette, so if you're enjoying the stream, hit the like and subscribe. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I won't be long. Don't go anywhere. Check out the description for links to my Discord, Patreon, and my previous game on Steam, which is actually on Steam, Jess. Right, I'll be back in a minute. Okay, we are back. Right, what's Jess saying? Other game is not on Steam, but sooner I will once it's finished. Which one are you talking about? My game is third person horror game. EM Bakey, don't go, right? But after the stream has finished, go back and look at my previous little project, which was kind of a horror come Pac-Man backrooms game, which I made for a laugh. And I've got a whole set of devlog on it from basically the start. But Jess, are you using the horror engine for that, are you? Right, anyway, what were we doing? Oh yeah, we were getting this to work, weren't we? Well, we were attempting to. And the sad thing is, I can't show you anything, right? Well, I can show you a few things. Like, for example... Oh my god. Yeah. That's not a good sign. Okay. Let's start at the start, shall we? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's a bit of an issue. Has resources. This is a bummer. I knew it was going to have a huge effect, but... Okay, we can fix this. Yeah, we can fix this. Right, we'll just basically fix everything as we go. Right, but, and here's the big but, we need our BP interactable. That's base interactable. Right. We're going to need this to have an item type. Right, which is a bit, but anyway. Yeah, we've really destroyed the whole thing now. And this is the add to inventory thing that was basically screwed. Oh, this is going to be torture. Okay. Right, so we're going to refresh that. It's easier to do your own, mate. I prefer not to use plugins as much as possible. It doesn't even actually matter if that's... Yeah, Okay, whatever. Right, so we should be able to refresh that. Okay, we've only got 74 now, 74 different blueprints to fix, which some are going to be easier than others. Alright. These are all going to have the same issue, by the way. Right, so none of this stuff is going to work, which is awesome, obviously. But we'll go around, get rid of the errors, and then we'll fix it up. Yeah, but artwork is about the only assets that I would recommend, especially for beginners, because basically buying a plugin, it's never going to do exactly what you want. You're always going to want it to do different things, and for that you're going to have to understand it. And the way assets are normally written is not very understandable or well documented, especially for a beginner. So I could find my way around an asset, but I wouldn't recommend it to anybody if they can avoid it. So it's easier just to learn to actually be able to do it yourself. So these are all going to have the same issue. So I'm going to have to rebuild these, right, from scratch, which is fine, but it's still going to be a heck of a lot of work, and I think it's going to be tomorrow's job, even though we're going to start it tonight. Right, I'm just going to get rid of the errors. I wonder if it will run, because I wanted to show you a couple of things, right? Now, the reason for all of this hilarity is I wanted to create a tool for my level designer slash modeler slash colleague to basically be able to add stuff easily in the correct way to a level, right? And configure it for them as much as possible. So I created this editor widget, right, which allows you to do that. Now I'm going to have to minimize this a bit, right, because it's not going to fit on the screen quite right. Right, so hopefully you guys can still see this. You should be able to still see this part, right? So basically you can add a mesh, or you can create an interactable item, right? So the person just comes in, says I want to create a weapon, right? It sets the interactable parts up for them. Then they can basically select the mesh, right? And they can either add it as a mesh only, right? So I can add it as a mesh. So, and you can basically point the line trace and get it where you want, right? So you'll see that one of them, is that a mesh? Yeah, so it says static mesh actor, so that's the mesh, right? But I can also create an interactable item, right? So if I create that, and it goes into the ground, by the way, because it's not, the pivot point isn't set up, right? So the point of this, and the clever part of this, is that when I press, right, we'll just say play, right, and hopefully it'll do something. Okay, it's not going to do anything. Okay, whatever. We're obviously setting stuff up. we're going to dismiss that. It's not loading up the animation blueprint, and I believe the animation blueprint will probably not be loaded because it's doing something else and it's failing, blah blah, right? But basically one of these will be interactable, and if you set it as a mesh, that won't be interactable. And you'll see if I do food, it sets it up as can use, can pick up, and can inspect. And if I set it there and then press interactable, you'll notice that we've got a bad blueprint, and that's because we've screwed it up. So if I go into this blueprint, you'll see that it will be the same exact error once again. So if I refresh that, delete this DT row number because it's no longer relevant, compile that, then you'll see that that's no longer that, right? Now it didn't manage to set it up right, and then this refreshes because we changed it. So if I go food again, click on that, interactable, we get a plate of food, and that will actually interact so that you can eat it, etc, etc. Okay, or you can set it up as a basic mesh in a village where it isn't pick upable and it's just a mesh, right? So this was so my colleague can easily fill the world with interactable, non-interactable parts in a very simple way. And that is what led to having to redo everything basically, which is obviously awesome. And why did we not get any errors there? That is a weird error. Alright, we're not exactly. Right, there shouldn't really be anything going wrong in our animation blueprint. That kind of scares me. Alright. Nothing wrong there. Okay. Whatever. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close everything down. I'm going to close that down. I'm going to go back to your content browser. Right, give me errors. I don't want that, I want errors. Access none. Did that? What? Have I deleted the wrong thing? Infinity post-processing component. Right, so that would suggest that I've deleted some sort of infinity thing. I wish this ladder thing would go away as well. Infinity weather, infinity displacement. Right, so I'm guessing that I've managed somehow right? To remove the infinity post-process thing, right? Now, I don't know how big it was. Okay, post-process, blueprints, I suppose. Unless it's... Let's go to weather. Blueprints. And it's not demo. We could open a demo and find out what we need. I wonder... It's not coming up under here. Alright, have we got a post-process volume? That's a material. Right, it's okay. Right, because all we need to do is go to your animation, right? And we've got ref infinity pp comp, and that's on the pawn, I'm pretty sure. Right, and that's infinity pp post-process component, right? Now if we go to our pawn, I hate when you muck up like this. Right, she's got a process component. BP process component. Okay. Right, this is me being totally and utterly thrown off the my train of thought here. Right. I'm wondering if it was because, yeah, just because that wasn't compiling was throwing it completely off, right? But you can see here we've got time, we've got our bars all working, our time actually works, and you can see that our stag will run away and stuff. We can, this is an example of going inside. This switches off her, or that switches it on, this switches it off, right? So if she's heading into the wind, she'll put her hand up, right? And then that's the trigger to go inside, so that redoes the animation but takes a bit of it out, and then this one switches it back on again. Right, and the other thing I was working on was basically if I do that and then I do ladders and then I select a ladder, right, it will create a ladder, believe it or not, and then basically the character can climb up the ladder, right? So you can see there that she'll climb up the ladder. There's a little bit of a glitch on the camera, but once I get that sorted out, it will be great. So before doing this would have been a nightmare, but because I've now got it in this little handy dandy diddly do thing, the level designer can just basically throw down ladders wherever they want. Right, so we've got basically wildlife that runs around and you can shoot it and stuff, right? Even though that's not probably going to work, but we can try it. Yeah, this isn't going to work. Well, maybe it will, don't know. Right, so you can go into shooty mode, then you can shooty, and there we hit it, right? And we'd probably be better shooting the goat. Right, obviously I'm trying to, this was in the middle of trying to, you can see that the goat fell down and died, right? And this is all not quite working right anymore because this was all built on the data tables. So it should have spawned a dead goat, which you could then skin, which was all working, okay? And then there was all sorts of stuff like a bed you could go and sleep on. I ignore that. Ignore that for now. Oh yeah, and you can displace the snow, right? And so does everything else. So you can actually go hunting, and if a goat walks in there, you'll see its footsteps and stuff. Okay, so unfortunately I broke this all the other night when I started doing this inventory and things, so I have to fix everything now basically. Yeah, so that's just basically some of the systems, but like you can put down like a fire and stuff, right? Now this isn't going to be representative, but if I put down like a fire, you basically won't be able to light the fire unless you've got, now this is all working, right? Once I fix it all up, but you can't start a fire unless you've got wood in your inventory. Right, now I had all that working, but obviously I broke it. But yeah, and actually, does this still work? Right, if you keep an eye, right, if I press play here, it's not going to work, right, but we'll pretend it does. But basically, when you light this, right, you're not going to be able to use it because it needs other resources, okay? But anyway, you can see there that the temperature goes up, right? And as you go away from it, the temperature goes down. Right? You can see the little blue number. So yeah, all working, but as I said, I just need to put it all together again because I broke it. Such is life. I meant to break it, but it's broken all the same. So we need to go back into our interactables, and we gradually need to fix everything, and then we need to make it work. Okay. And this is going to be fairly easy, but I don't think I've finished setting this up. Because basically the clothing is going to have clothing data, right? It's not going to have this item data anymore. So we can do that, clothing data, and that's going to be struct. So we may as well just start setting all this stuff up properly, and then this clothing data will go in here. Okay. So if we go through these now and just fix them all up as we're going, you'll notice this has got struck drink. We can get that. Then we can go drink data. And that is obviously going to be a drink. Okay. And fire, no. Food, yes. So we'll go into food data, and we have our struct food. Get that. And that's going to go in there. And that's fine. And save that, and we're going to go back to here, and we're going to say struct clothing to keep it all the same. Okay. Clothing, and we'll check our food. Change that to food. Okay. We could actually pull this from the item type. Right, if you notice, we could say item type. We could get the item type and then pull it from there, right? Which would do the same thing, basically. We can save that, right? And so we've got food, fire, fuel, right? So we know that's going to go in there. This is just one of these jobs that you just sometimes got to do, you know. Just one of them things. Not great fun, but when it all works in the end, it's kind of worth it. Get stock fuel, and that's going to go in fuel data. And I think the only one we've got to do now is the weapon. Right, so go to BP weapon. That's going to be the same thing. Go and delete that. We're going to do that. Right, and we do struct weapon. I knew this was going to be a lot of work, right, when I started it a couple of days ago. But it's one of those things that you've just got to sort of soldier on and get it done. There's no kind of shortcuts to it. It's just got to be manually all done. I'm kind of used to this anyway because I've worked in software development for a long time, and people tend to change their minds a lot, which ends up with the developer having to rewrite everything done because some divvy has decided that he doesn't really like it done this way, but he wants it done another way. Right, so anyway, now we are adding to our inventory. And in theory now, I should be able to pick up my super duper halberd, right? And we should be able to step in here. Now, this is obviously going to have to be the next thing we do. Right? Now, the interesting thing here is we're going to have to, instead of checking for a quantity or a data table value to be the same, we're going to have to check if a value exists that's the same in our array, in our inventory, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to press resume, right? And now this is going to add our item. As you can see, it's got a lot of stuff now. And our issue is that our weapon hasn't got that struct set up. Okay, which is fine, that's fine. I know what the problem is. We don't need to worry about it, because it's in... Well, I suppose we could fill it in manually first, right? But we don't have it here. Well, I suppose if we look at it, we could set it as visible, and now we can look at it. We've got our struct weapon, right? And this isn't ideal, but for a joke, we can say halberd. Right, now this should then tell me it's a halberd in the data, right, when I pick it up. That's the only bit of data I'm going to get for the moment. We're working on it, right? I kind of know where I am within what's going on here. So we step over, we step into, we resume, then we step over, and we should see halberd, and there it is. About the 5th line down you'll see halberd, right, which means that we're getting data. Okay, and if we're getting data, that means we can read it back, which means that we can fill up our inventory. Okay, so I'm going to do this manually. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is get rid of this bleeding fire. Right, so what I can do is I can say halberd, and this is going to get set up by the tool, but it just isn't at the moment. But we can say halberd. Okay, we've got our we can do a description. We can say heavy halberd used in battle. Okay, so now that we've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it right in front of our character, so we don't need to walk around and bugger about. Right, so we can just basically walk straight forward, and that will give us our halberd. Right, so we can pick it up, we can resume. Okay, and now we can go to our pawn. If we can find it for looking at it. Where's the goddamn pawn? There it is. Right, then we can type in inventory. Okay, and there you can see it, halberd, okay. So now that we can read it, now that we're passing the data in, we can get the data back out. Okay, so with that in mind, let's go. Actually, I'm not going to do that right now. That would be a bad idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on with tool so that the data is always written, right, and you don't need to type it in manually. That is basically the reason for it existing. So to then not use it is a bit silly. Okay. And that spawns the actor. And you can see here that we're setting the struct food. Right. So basically all we need to do is this particular part for each of our different item types. So for our weapon, right, we cast it to weapon, right, then we set struct weapon basically. Data table get data table row, and that is going to come from temp row name. So that goes in there. Okay. Then this goes here. Okay. And this comes from weapon types. Then this goes here. This goes here. We need to align these a bit. Okay. We've just basically got to do this same thing for each of the different items, which is no big deal. I've got it done a couple of them already, we just need to finish them off. The problem was that we didn't have the struct fuel and the struct other one, right? And then we do that, and the next thing we do is we do that, then we basically move all of these over to here. Then if I can get my mouse to work for a second, then these are going to go here. And we can tidy this up by straightening that. Then we can do that. Okay. So as you can see, we've got it done there, and we've got it done there. a little bit of difference on the fire because there's a couple extra things need done, but fundamentally we just need to do this for the food and drink now, and that should all work perfectly. But we're going to call it a night now, so I hope you've enjoyed it. If you're still there, Ian Bakey, thank you for interacting. It makes streaming a lot easier and more enjoyable. If you like the stream, hit like and subscribe. Check out the description for my previous game on Steam, which is a tower defense game. Also my Patreon to support the game and the channel, and you can join the Discord where I'm usually around when I'm not streaming, where I answer questions or whatever. And yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and have a good night. Bye bye for now.